He's all nipped out. How we doing, lads? Seek a Blitz, Comrade Astro here today to give a great technical analysis. Alright, so I'm going to preface this video because I imagine it's going to get some form of attention that's outside of the normal amount of attention that my videos get. Everything I'm about to say is entirely contingent upon the broader markets. And what do I mean by that? This thing right here, the S&P. If the S&P is not going up, neither will the meme stocks. The second member of this is DXY. DXY is the US dollar index. This is the value of a dollar. The thing about markets, in particular equity markets, is that when you have a strong dollar, your equities will typically retract in growth because people are more likely to take on their tons of cash, and instead of putting it into speculative growth, they will instead just hoard it and then lend it out for a fixed income, right? And that's what becomes as a bond, right? This fixed income, kind of like a reverse credit card, is the way that I typically describe it. And bonds and their yields, which is how much that bond will pay out, the interest payment, if you will, of that reverse credit card. As those yields increase, you will typically see the equity markets retract because it's safer to have a higher yield, a higher return that's consistent than having a bunch of speculative things that might have, 4 times that return, but half the time. So these are the two things that I'm going to put under an umbrella when I say broader markets. So to recap, if broader markets are going up, right, and the dollar index is going down, everything I'm about to say is fully in play and is on the table. One last thing, I'm not a believer in MOAS. That's not to be a Debbie Downer. That's not to be a piece of crap. That's just simply, I don't feel comfortable publicly talking about something that I just don't think is likely, at least in the current moment. I'm not saying that it's completely off the table, but I will not be talking of it or referencing it as if it's a currently plausible event. So I want to make that clear. In the meantime, we're going to talk about SPY real quick. All right, AMC and GameStop, and we'll probably throw Bed Bath in there. We'll be in a couple minutes. If you don't want to listen to this, then just skip ahead. But what you don't want to skip, because I do think it's important, is today's sponsor, BINGX. Are you a degenerate? Do you cruise through Wall Street bets at 3 o'clock in the morning, trying to distract yourself from that YOLO that you did the prior day, that you're like, man, this ain't going to work out, but maybe I can find some copium on old Wall Street bets? Well, this is the platform for you, because especially if you like leverage, if you like exposure greater than that of which you actually have, oh boy, what, you like 2x? You like your little margin from your brokerage, 5x. Maybe you pull some credit card debt. You just do some cash advances. You talk to Paulie up the street off of 14th and 7th Avenue, and you're like, hey Paulie, I just need some money. Just just give it to me. 5x ain't nothing. How about 100x? How about 150x? We're like Oprah Winfrey with degeneracy. We're just giving it out left and right. You get a margin call. You get a margin call. It's all over the place, and BINGX is the dealer. Sign up today. You like Forex, you like S&P futures, you like crypto. BINGX is the trap house. Sign up today. Use the link in the description. Click it, sign up, get a free $100 redemption of degeneracy for free using the code I54OP8, Indigo 54 Omega Penis 8. All right. So let's talk about SPY now, because this is really important. This is the only way that this forecast or this pseudo thesis is going to actually be feasible. There's going to be a lot of drawings and whatnot on the screen. If they become too much, just try to differentiate the drawings or the indicators from the candles. I'll try to keep this as concise as possible. So CPI came in today. We had a CPI print that was significantly lower, relatively speaking, than what was expected. I think it came out to like 7.7%, and the expectation was 8.1, somewhere along those lines. But anywhere from like a 7.5 to 10% uh, 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 beat, if you will, if we're thinking of this as like earnings. So 7.5 to 10% less worse than what people were accounting for and what the market had priced in. I have never in my life seen the S&P go up 5.5% in one day. Not like this. And typically you see these extreme green days during bear market rallies. Well, what's a bear market rally? A bear market rally is when you're in a bear market where the macro trend is going down and you happen to have just a little squeezy squeeze that happens because everybody is short, knowing that the macro trend is going down, and so they either take profit or there's some event that happens that forces them out of their position. In this case, it was the latter, potentially even the former, but more so the latter. This was very unexpected. You can even see it inside of the yields of the 10-year note. This declined by 7.5% today. So going back to SPY though, this is an unprecedented move. These happen maybe once every 3 to 4 years, if that, at least in this particular flavor. This has created a wake that I think markets aren't prepared for, and I think that there is a lot of opportunity to be captured from it. So let's dive into this. I made a video last week or 2 weeks ago titled "Is this the power bottom?" Right? Have we hit the bottom of the market? And most people would laugh. Most people would be like, you're crazy. Yeah. Well, in this case, I truly believe that for the rest of the year, for the last 45 days left in 2022, that we have hit the bottom, and I think we're going to find ourselves within the low to possibly mid 400s by the end of the year. And this is going to segue into why I'm making a dedicated video about a squeeze in a manner that you typically haven't seen in a while, as far as like me explaining and trying to like dissect things and provide an actual thesis for this. So here's the thing, is that if we go to something like AMC, we have a problem. The reason why AMC and GameStop and Koss and BlackBerry and Nokia and Clove and you name it, the reason why those all squeezed the way they did back in 2021 was because interest rates were so low. And what Wall Street ended up doing was they inflated the stock market, let everything go up, and then lent out the stock and charged a borrow fee that emulated what bonds are supposed to do. Right? And we talked about bonds, or these reverse credit cards. Those interest rates, those payouts of those were so low, it wasn't even worth buying. If you had a savings account, it wasn't worth having one. You got 0.5% or 0.1% in terms of an interest rate. And so what Wall Street did, and this will eventually invoke the reverse repo, but what Wall Street did is they just inflated the whole stock market. Everybody bought in, because if you can't get growth out of fixed income, aka bonds, and you can't get growth out of just sitting on your cash and just reaping in the rewards of it, you buy stock. You buy stock, because that's the only thing presenting a piece of growth with the abundant amount of money you have as big money, that it makes sense just to buy it and then either lend it out or sell derivatives against it, like calls. And that's what happened. Now, the signature here, though, the key signature of this entire thing was that there was short interest. There were tons and tons and tons of shorts inside of these particular stocks. And when you found things like AMC, a brick and mortar movie theater company that just went through incredible like smackdown because of COVID, and GameStop, same thing, sort of a dying business model. Everything's going digital instead of physical, and this and that. Also brick and mortar. Algorithms and funds and other people and entities just started lending it out or just shorting it. And that created a problem. And so here we find ourselves now, where we're at the bottom of where this all started, right? We're at the bottom of where it all started. So the people who shorted up here, right? Here, 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 and here. Anyone who shorted from the very top is up 84% now, right? And the thing with shorting, right, is that you have unlimited risk, right? Unlimited loss potential and limited reward, right? Being long is the opposite. You have limited risk and theoretically infinite reward. And that's why going long and short mingle. It's because one side is taking on one side of the risk and the other is taking on the lopsided reward potential. So that's my point. My point is that it's time for someone or someones to recoup, take the profit, move on. It's asymptotical. I think that's a word, but in math, there's what's known as an asymptote. It's typically used in calculus. It's when you have a particular curve or a particular line that approaches a particular point, but will never touch it. It will just infinitely get closer and closer. That's what we're having happen here. There's only so much profit left that someone can take before someone else decides, all right, I'm going to take profit, and it starts to shoot up. And when it starts to shoot up, not only are they taking away profit from the person that also needs to close, they're going to start a chain reaction. Now we're going to tie this all together right here in a second. Let's take a look at an indicator that I wrote called, where did it go? RSI benchmark heat map. All right, so this indicator is pretty simple. What this does is takes your current chart, which in this case is we're looking at AMC, and adds this red background, right, with varying intensity of red. And what this red represents is how bad something is performing, right? And that is what the reference point is known as a benchmark. The benchmark that we have is the S&P. And you can see that back in the original days of the squeeze, that the S&P didn't really have any issue. In fact, the S&P was going up at an unprecedented rate, hitting an all-time high. Whenever we saw red, it typically didn't make AMC or GameStop go down. But then after the peak, right, what's funny is that this is when inflation started actually becoming an issue. And this is when rate hikes, right, the tightening of interest rates became a topic. And before you knew it, as the S&P began to suffer and the broader markets began to suffer, and as the dollar started to go up, the value of all of these meme stocks began to go down. Now here's what happened. BlackRock, Vanguard, all these custodial agents, people who just manage money. It was always going around Twitter, always going around YouTube. Oh, BlackRock bought in. Oh, this pension fund bought in, or this teachers fund bought in. The sad part is that those funds actually are managed by BlackRock and Vanguard. And what BlackRock and Vanguard did is that they bought into these stocks with teachers' money, firefighters' money, police money, state municipalities' money, and use that to bid this up. And it's really clever. It's really clever. But then they took those holdings that all these pension funds bought up, and they used that to lend it out. And they captured that interest rate, that borrow fee. And they've been doing that ever since. That's how they replicated a bond, a fixed income. As we started to go down, that ran in tandem. That suffering ran in tandem. So on the way down, you can see that anytime the S&P was red, we were red too. And everybody was talking about negative beta and, oh, it should kick in and this and that. No. Of course not. And anytime we were green, it was because the S&P was going up. And that's been the trend for the past 9 months. And so now that we have two factors now that are giving us a callback to how this all started. One, These prices are low and there's high short interest. And two, the Fed is talking about actually reducing the increase in interest rates. December is estimated to have a 50 BIP increment, right? While we've been having 75 increments for the past 6 months. So now there's an opportunity. We're at lows that we haven't seen in almost 2 years, and the same conditions that made this whole thing start are coming up again. That's why I'm officially saying that I'm bullish again on this. I don't think there's MOAS, not yet. If I change my mind, I'll let you know. But I do think you can see an incredible squeeze take place on every meme stock, the whole market. We can't increase interest rates at the pace that we have anymore for at least a couple months. We have the UN calling on the United States saying, hey, please stop doing this because you're ruining every other fund that exists or every other currency that exists. The consumer credit debt just hit an all-time high. The housing market is heavily reliant on interest rates. The home buying power that people have has been shot down by like 40% just by a couple percent's worth of interest rate hikes. And if that goes away, if the real estate market fizzles, then it's going to be real bad. So now let's kind of get to the technical side of this real quick. Back in March, I came up with an indicator that I call the Wyckoff sniper, the sword of 1,000 truths. And this is called numerous squeezes. I wrote my own program. I programmed something to literally just look at these two stocks, AMC and GameStop, and I want to figure out how to tune this thing to tell me when something's going to squeeze and how high it's going to go. And so back in March, that's what we did. You can even look up the video. It was in it was March 21st, I think. It was on a Sunday that I uploaded it because that's when I just finally had a beta version of this that I could actually use, and I called it out immediately. And the next day we ran like 150% over the rest of the week. 160%, right? And that's because we were under the blue line on the daily, and we started breaking through the red line, which acts as a resistance. And so now here we are. We've literally bounced to the penny off of that lower bound. And we're pushing through one of them, and we have room all the way up to $12, which doesn't sound like much, but when you consider how percentages work, that's a 100% move. And then after that, you got $14, 160% move. And after that, you got $19, a 300% move. If we look at what happened today, we're set up to actually move again tomorrow, even more. And it's the same thing with GameStop. The same signatures of what January of 21 presented and June of 21 presented for both of these stocks are reappearing again. And here's probably my favorite part, is that this can actually tell you where the top is. And if you happen to break through that, then you let all hell let loose. Got rejected here, came all the way down, got rejected. Actually, this isn't the right configuration, my bad. That's a terrible sales pitch. Right here, right here, right here, right here. It's just all over the board. I've programmed something that tells you where these points of interest happen. And the great part is that it works on everything. So going forward, I'm super bullish. That is subject to change, and that's dependent on what the broader markets do, which is what I prefaced this video with. And I'm going all in. So yeah, that's the nickel tour. That's the recap. Everything's lining up. The stars are aligning. Gonna leave it at that. Salut. And stay black.